There's many things you gotta take care of if you wish to tank as a mage in Gruul's lair in Burning Crusade Classic, and in this video I'll share my different tips and tricks, and also my strategies when I'm tanking. Alright, starting with tips and tricks. During this fight you're going to take a lot of fire damage. You will of course be able to spell steal the spell shield, but it won't be up all the time, and this is why you also need a lot of health. There's many things you can do to increase your health. For example, getting different food buffs that provide stamina. Or, if you're being a tailor, you could keep your Shattercloth cooldown. When you use this long cooldown, you're also going to be provided with a 1 hour buff that increases your stamina by 25. On the auction house, you can also purchase different consumables. For example, the major fire protection potion, or a flask that increases your maximum health. You can also craft these yourself if you have leveled up your alchemy. You would also like to get the right items, so not the Spellfire set. Even though these items are epic, then they're not providing any stamina whatsoever. Instead, you should maybe just quest or do dungeons and try to get items with sockets and stamina, just like these pair of boots from a quest in Shadow Labyrinth. So why am I mentioning sockets? As a jewel crafter, you can learn the recipe Solid Star of Alone, which is increasing your stamina by 12. I guess you can imagine what happens if you have an item with at least 1 socket, or maybe all the way up to 3. This allows you to get so much additional health, and it's also the main reason for why you need items with sockets. However, if we're looking at trinkets and so, then you shouldn't just go for stamina all the time, unless you're of course lacking a lot of it, because you might also need a lot of DPS to make sure you're pulling enough threat to also keep aggro on the boss. If you need more health, then you could also do PvP for the High Warlord or Grand Marshal gear, and even the epic off pieces. What you can also do is to find a leather worker at least level 350. This makes them able to craft the heavy Knothide armor kit, an item you can enchant on your head, chest, shoulders, legs, hands and feet to increase their stamina by 10. Moving on to the next topic, how to tank as a mage when you're fighting Krosh Firehand in Gruul's lair. Before you start tanking, you gotta make sure you're also dragging down Fire Ward to your action bar. This can be found in your fire spell book. Next, you should choose a proper talent tree. In my case, I like to play as Frost, as I can reduce the fire damage taken by 6%, and in the Frost tree I can also choose Ice Barrier, yet another spell I can activate to absorb some damage. When is the perfect time to use these absorb effects? Well, definitely when you're about to pull. So if you miss your spell steal on the spell shield, then you don't really have to worry about the first greater firebolt, as you won't be dying anyway. In fact, you might even be able to be hit twice without dying. Nonetheless, then it's going to be important to always spell steal this whenever it's up. It's a 30 seconds cooldown, so you can spell steal this immediately and pretty much also reduce your spell damage taken by 75% for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, another shield will be casted, and this is once again also important to continue spell stealing, as your own shield will also disappear. Another important thing to be aware of is that your spell steal can also be resisted, so you might have to use this a couple of times in a row. On top of this, spell steal also requires quite a bit of mana, so it's important you're always having a decent amount of mana, or you might end up dying, and this will most likely also result in your raid wiping. If you end up going low on mana, make sure to also use mana potions, ask a druid for innovate, or use your greater fire protection potion to stay alive for a bit longer until you hopefully have enough mana to once again spell steal the shield. If you enjoyed this video, you will definitely also like a lot of my other Burning Crusade guides, where I show my gold making routes, how I'm leveling up quickly, and other useful tips and tricks. And soon I'll also release a lot more, so make sure to subscribe to get notified when I post these. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.